Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be an awesome meeting. So I'm not even going to talk. We're just going to get right into it. I hope your breakout rooms were awesome. You had great conversations, middle of the week, week 6. So here we go. Before we begin, we have a quick announcement from the Career Readiness Center for OCOB. So, Shannon.
Yeah, can I share my screen real quick?
Yes, you can. Go for it.
Cool.
Dylan, does she have?
Do you need access?
I think I got it.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. Okay, well, first of all, we have a giveaway for y'all if you want to scan this QR code real quick while explaining you kind of what we do here in the OCOP Career Readiness Center. And just to explain, this is just to, I guess, like raise awareness that we're still here when like in a virtual environment, and all you need to do is scan this QR code. It'll link you to an Instagram from OCOB Careers, but you could do it from OCOB Student Services, and you can just follow these steps. They're also in the bio as well. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and explain exactly what we do. It'll be pretty brief, like 2 minutes tops. All right, if I can move this. Okay, Career Readiness Center. Pre-COVID, actually, can I get a raise of hands? Who here is a first year? Cool. Second year? Nice. Third year? Same. And fourth year? And any super seniors here? All right, cool. Thank you. All right, that's cool that I kind of have a gauge of y'all in the room today. So this is our mission statement. I'm not gonna read it and bore y'all, but it's pretty similar to just the OCOB one in general. And essentially, we're here to help you. So there's like a difference between the student services, which is usually the downstairs part of the business building, if y'all are familiar with that. And for the student services, they're here for like, if you need to know if you need to take like an econ class or like the specific kind of 4-year plan. But you come to us for in the Career Readiness Center if you need help with kind of overarching things such as resume or cover letter or mock interviews, if you need help with LinkedIn and tips and tricks, and even salary negotiation, which I didn't really know much about. And something that we've been having much success with is our career coaching program. So this is really cool experience where you get to be paired up. You can choose if you want to be paired up with a young alumni or executive partner. So either 1 to 10 years of experience if you want to feel someone out for like a new grad, or if you want to learn the ropes of someone who's an executive for 10 plus years of experience. And honestly, like it's been pretty great so far. I actually joined the cohort this year, and it's not like super time consuming or like a restraint in any sense. It's you meet with them once a month, and it's like an hour, 30 minutes, whatever you guys want, and you can discuss about anything that you need. Like let's say if you wanted to learn more about like networking or just career trajectory, you could do that as well. And yeah, there's like different companies listed down here. You can scan this QR code to give you more details for that. And actually, Kaylin is going to be speaking on the concentration panel for entrepreneurship this Thursday, and it's 11 to 12. And we have like another QR code for our website if you want more details about that. But concentration panels in general, we had our first kind of batch last week with finance and accounting. This week, today, actually, we had IS. And then Thursday, like I mentioned, we have entrepreneurship. It's every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 to 12 via Zoom, obviously. And this is just like a great way. So kind of contrasting with the mentorship program of like reaching out to people with X amount of years of experience. This one's helpful because it gives you a fresh perspective of students such as Kaylin and to share their experiences. It could be both like super relevant to their major, or they could have like unique experiences, which are always interesting to me. And I think this is probably my last slide. So yeah, like I mentioned before, pre-COVID, we were located in BizLab on the 3rd floor, but now we're accessible via Zoom link, which is going to be on this website or this QR code over here, we have drop-in hours anytime 10 to 12 Monday through Thursday, and then you can also schedule appointments if that's more of your style from 12 to 3 Monday to Thursday and Friday 10 to 12. So yeah, you can feel free to scan this QR code. I'll also link it in the chat after this. And once again, if you didn't get a chance to check out this Instagram post to enter and win $10 Starbucks gift card if you're into that basic pumpkin spice latte, and also you're also gonna, I don't know if it's these stickers exactly, but some type of Cal Poly stickers to rep and put your hydros or whatnot. So I'll leave this up for now, but does anyone have any questions? I know I kind of like ran through that real quick, didn't want to bore y'all. Okay, cool. Thank you. And once again, I'll put our link in the chat. But thank you for having me here, Kaylin, and everyone, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. Everyone, any OCUP students, definitely use the Career Readiness Center. Like when things get whack and you're just like confused, it's nice to have some guidance and perspective of what you should be doing. Okay, thank you for that, Shannon. Let's hop right into today. I am super excited. So if you saw our email, I promise you, I'm not like sidestepping you. Unfortunately, Sydney was not able to make it out today, but it's 100% all right because regardless, we got Haley with us and it's going to be awesome. And I'm super stoked. All right. So I'm not going to use up any more time because I want every single minute for Haley and y'all. This is going to be a great opportunity to hear from a young entrepreneur who is a student at Cal Poly. So here we go. Haley, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Y'all know who she is. And we'll just take it away from there. Let's do it.
Awesome. I didn't know Sydney couldn't make it. That's too bad. Hopefully I can entertain you guys for a full 40 minutes by myself. We'll find out. But thank you for that great intro. Yes, I can go ahead and dive in. So I'm Haley Pavone. I'm the founder and CEO at Pashion Footwear. I can't see everyone, but show of hands, who's heard of Pashion before? Hopefully everyone. Yeah. Okay, good. That's a pretty good take from what I can tell. But yeah, so at Pashion, as you guys know, we've created fully convertible high heels. And I actually started the business when I was a junior in college. So I was sitting right where all of you guys are now when I dove into starting the business. It's been a pretty crazy path since then. We actually just had our 4-year birthday on October 4th. That was the anniversary of the day I walked into the hatchery and met with Lori Jordan. Some of you seniors might have overlapped with Lori. I don't know who's in the position now, but walked in and pitched the full business plan for the first time. I had my like 8-page business plan, the competitive analysis. I knew exactly how the sourcing and the pricing was going to work. 4 years later, I can say like 98% of that was wrong. But, you know, at the end of the day, we did make the product happen and we're somehow selling them across the globe now. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Armin, where would you like me? I've only seen the most recent structure with the breakout rooms that we were going to do with Sydney. So give me some input on where you'd like me to start here.
So it's all you today. All eyes on you. So we'll kick it, all of us in this main room. And I think we'll start off with the same question, but you know, same topic, but then we will open it up to everyone for questions. Everyone, this is your opportunity to, you know, really get some motivation and hear the reality of what it's like starting as a student entrepreneur. So definitely take advantage of it. And yeah, it's gonna be a great time. So
Awesome.
I'm gonna start it off. This is where we're talking. Start off with. Yeah, go for it. What's up?
I was going to say, do you want me to just kind of kick things off with the founding story and the quick timeline of the last 4 years? I won't get into all the excruciating detail.
Yeah, I was just going to remind everyone what the question was, but you can just hop right into it. Stage is yours.
Cool. I don't even remember what the question was, so that's fine. But cool. Yeah, I'll dive a little bit into the founding story and give you guys kind of the highlight reel of the last 4 years. Obviously, I'm going to give you the main talking points. This is the drill I give VCs. So this doesn't cover all of the absolute shit firestorm that's happened in between these points. So we can dig into that for Q&A for sure. But basically the quick version, I apologize if some of you have heard this story already, but I came up with the idea initially in my sophomore year of college. So I'd already declared business entrepreneurship at Cal Poly. I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a little kid. People were calling me bossy by the time I was 3, so no one was particularly shocked. This was the route I chose in life. But much like many of you, I knew I had a passion for entrepreneurship and I wanted to work for myself, but I was always going back and forth between a million different ideas and could never quite get something that stuck enough for me to actually go, okay, I'm going to dive into this crazy journey and see where it can take me. But that all changed in my sophomore year. I was actually out at my sorority spring formal. I was in ACIO. If anyone, I can't see everybody. Maybe there's some gals in the Greek community here. But I was out at my spring formal and I'd worn 6-inch high heels. And the guys can't relate to this, but dancing in 6-inch high heels is not possible. It's really more of a side to side wobble, and I really wanted to bust a move. So I ditched my heels and took to the dance floor barefoot, as most women do in that situation. I'm sure the gals in the room can relate. And for the guys, you've probably seen women do this, even if you haven't worn heels yourself, although maybe some of you have, who knows. But anyway, I was dancing barefoot, and through an unfortunate series of events, one of my other sorority sisters, who for point of reference is actually now a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, accidentally stomped her stiletto through my barefoot and actually impaled me through the toe. So I like to say that tragedy and inspiration quite literally struck in that moment. As I was sitting on the side of the dance floor unimpaling myself, I looked around the room and realized easily 90% of the women at this thing were barefoot. I mean, that's just what college gals do. It's what I'd done at any sorority event I'd been to, any prom, even a couple different presentations for OCOB. I'd, dressed up nice and worn heels to the meeting and then just barefoot trekked it back to my car out in the H lots. And in that moment, it really just struck me as odd that everyone knows high heels hurt. There's very much a societal expectation for women to wear them to most formal or professional events. And yet there's no marketable solution to how painful and inconvenient they are, other than going barefoot, which opens you up to, potential injury, or best case scenario is just gross, lugging around backup shoes, or suffering through. And I just became absolutely obsessed with the idea that there had to be a better way. Like, why couldn't you create some kind of crazy 2 shoes in one where the heel comes off and it turns to a flat, right? Like, that was the general thesis of the whole thing. So I became completely obsessed with the idea, couldn't fall asleep for like 6 days, just kept thinking about it and working on it, and finally decided, okay, I think this is the nutty idea. This feels right. I can't stop thinking about it. I have to take a stab at it. So I took that summer off, was studying abroad in Italy, got to see all the Italian women fall down cobblestone streets in their high heels, and came back. And as I said, October 4th, went and actually pitched it to the hatchery. So once I was in the hatchery program, they really helped me get the ball rolling. I found my co-founder. I pitched in the elevator pitch competition, I want to say a month later. It's like in November of that year, and won first and second place, which was pretty cool. It was a sweep, so that was great. Made me feel really confident that I was onto something. That was a big vote of confidence for me. So won a whopping $1,500 in that effort, and immediately funneled that into 3D printing prototypes, actually over at the Innovation Sandbox. Has anyone here worked in the Innovation Sandbox before? No? I can't tell. I can only see like 6 of you at a time, but hopefully someone's been there. If you haven't, it's a great space. If you're looking at making physical products, they let you 3D print basically anything for free. You just have to buy some of your specialty materials. So anyway, worked at the Sandbox to get the first couple prototypes actually developed and printed, and then brought those prototypes to Innovation Quest, where we actually won first place there as well. So that came with a bigger cash prize of $15,000. And then immediately thereafter, we got into the summer Hot House Accelerator program. So another $10,000 from that. So armed with about 26 grand in tow, we dove into our summer in the accelerator full steam ahead. And I really can't emphasize enough how crazy it is what 12 weeks can do if you have the right mindset and the right resources, which is really what the accelerator program provides. 10 out of 10 recommend it for anyone that's trying to start a company. In those 12 weeks, we brought on a full professional footwear development team with experts from Nike and Adidas. They helped us get the first wearable 3D printed prototypes and also finalize what the mechanism looked like. They helped us start sourcing our supply chain. We filed for patent protection in 30 countries. We're still patent pending in all 30 countries to this day, which is great. Did the full brand package. We incorporated, developed the business plan, et cetera, et cetera. And so then I pitched demo day with all that under my belt, got to wear the first kind of working prototypes on stage, and used the momentum from demo day to raise our first $420,000 from investors, largely that we actually met at the event. So that was a big starting off point for us. That brings us all the way up to, let's see, fall 17. So my senior year, I'm still in school at this point. Throughout that next year, I balanced being a full-time student and also working on the company full-time. So traveling to China to set up the supply chain, still working on all of the legalese with the patents, continuing to find more investors and also really finalize what the shoes were going to look like. I was able to get the first finished shoes from the manufacturer on graduation. So the first convertible heels were worn on the Cal Poly grad stage, which is pretty cool. And then in the 2 years since then, we've really kind of grown into the revenue generating phase of the business. Once we had those first finished shoes, we did a Kickstarter, got our first orders up and moving, got inventory in house, launched the full website in June of 2019. And so it's been about a year and some change since then. Happy to say that even though COVID has definitely impacted the high heel market, we've still been able to grow. We've actually grown about 500% this year, and we're on track to close out at about $1 million. So we're super stoked. All's going well, full steam ahead. Obviously, lots of progress still to be made. And again, that's very much the quick highlight reel. Everything's been a hot mess in between all of that, but that's what Q&A is for. That's what we'll get into. But that's just kind of the general gist of how this thing's played out over the last 4 years.
That's a great story.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think many people can, say that their idea came from being impaled. So that's definitely unique. I want to start off with a question, and then everyone else feel free to hop in. How did you manage having like the startup? And when you first started, it was just like, of course, your whole life was like, I want to do this and I'm gonna do everything for it. But as a student, how did you prioritize and just figure it all out mentally of what you're gonna put where and
Totally. For me, I think there were two things that were going, or one thing that was big in my favor, and then I'll get to the time management side of it. I definitely think a major asset for me, to be blunt, was that I was majoring in entrepreneurship for sure. Watching my co-founder go through it, she had a much harder time balancing the company and school just because her professors weren't as understanding. But I was lucky where, my professors were John York, John Townsend, like all the people that are super involved with the accelerator and the CIE. So, for instance, my senior year, I had to go to China for a week, and I told John Townsend, hey, I need you to move my midterm. I'm going to China to source my supply chain. And he's like, yeah, get out of here, go for it. So I had a much easier time balancing it. I was able to get it to double count as my senior project, so didn't have to stack that on top of it. So being an entrepreneurship major and just being in and around the professors that understood what I was trying to do, I was able to get a lot of my activity with Pashion to double count towards school. So that definitely helped, just being super open. It's definitely easier if that's your major. As far as time management, for me, it all just came down to being an obsessive planner for sure. It got to the point where I was Google Caling my lunch, Google Caling when I was sleeping, and just working those crazy hours. I was up all day. Actually, right when I started the business, I was still part-time at Starbucks in the campus market. So I was up at 5:30 doing my Starbucks barista shifts till about 8. And then I would have class from 8 to 4. And then I'd work till about midnight and usually do that circuit. So a lot of coffee, I guess, is the other secret. So obsessive scheduling and then having access to free coffee didn't hurt either. So that's the quick version. But yeah, you just have to get really, really obsessive about managing your time. And you also have to shift your priorities a bit. I think for me, again, to just be super real about it, freshman and sophomore year, I totally full sent the sorority life, not to live the stereotype, but did Vegas a lot, got all of it out of my system. And by junior year, I was like, okay, I don't need to go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday anymore. I can stay in and be a hermit and work on this. I had no FOMO. I was like, I did it. I did college, jammed it into 2 years, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So I think just make sure your priorities are in order and make sure you're in a place where mentally, you're okay putting the company first. Like if you need to work until midnight on a Friday, you need to be comfortable enough with your social life and where you're at in your life to tell your friends that you're not going out to Marston's. It's not Marston's anymore, is it? It has a new name. I'm too old. Anyway, that's just make sure your lifestyle is in a place where you can really focus, because it's tough to balance a big social scene with startups and sleep and school. You got to pick your battles.
Thank you for that. That was a very lengthy, good, detailed answer. Thank you. All right, so we got a question from Jacob. Jacob, why don't you unmute and
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just, for sure. I really like the story. That was definitely like something unique. Again, it's like what Armand said, like you'd think like something crazy like that wouldn't really like amount to anything, but that's cool that you got like a whole company out of it. But I was wondering, like, did you outsource in the beginning and basically find help with the designing and like the sourcing? 'Cause that seems like a lot of stuff to manage in the beginning for like one person, or did you like do it yourself in the beginning, or was there a point where you outsource? That's basically my question.
For sure. We still outsource to this day. I am a big believer that contractors are like the number one asset you can have in a startup. They're a lot more affordable and they allow you to access experts for a much better rate. For instance, like I said, I had a development team that I brought on in the summer of 2017 when I was in the hothouse that helped with the footwear engineering and the development. They were all ex-Nike and Adidas people. If I had brought them on full time, they would want a $150K starting salary. At the time, I paid myself pizza like once a week, maybe, if I was really lucky. So there was just no way in heck that was going to happen. But you also have to appreciate, there's some things in your business that you can't skimp on. And that depends on what kind of business you're trying to start. I know the general rule of thumb is always pay full price for lawyers and accountants. I know I've talked to some of you in here that now know for a fact that's true. Always pay full price for your lawyers and accountants. But in a business like ours, you have to pay top dollar for your footwear engineer. Like the last thing I need is one of these heels spontaneously flying off and someone falling downstairs and suing me, right? So you definitely want to ball out to get the right people involved. And the best way you can do that economically is to outsource and contract with them, because it allows you to just buy a portion of their time. So those developers, I only paid them a quarter of what they'd usually make. They went off and had other clients to make up the rest. So they were hunky-dory. And I got the extent of their knowledge that I needed for a fraction of the price. So like I said, I still outsource to this day. To give you an idea of the company composition, we have 3 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees, and about 10 contractors that I work with on a weekly, if not daily basis, but they are not part of the internal operation. They are 100% outsourced.
And gotcha. Yeah, thanks. So contractors are the move then in the beginning, for sure.
Absolutely. It's just, I could get an engineer full-time that didn't work at Nike, or I can get someone outsourced for as much, just, the time that I actually need.
For sure. Yeah.
It's just a quality to time trade-off. I would take quality every single time in that equation.
Gotcha.
Because a high quality person can do a lot more with less time too.
Gotcha. Thank you.
There's a follow-up to that question. How did you contact and screen these people?
Ooh, it's a little different for all of them. As I said, we have a bunch of contractors we work with. A lot of finding them was just through networking. So the way I actually found the footwear developers that I still work with today, I, was sitting there trying to figure out how the heck do you make a shoe, right? You can't just go find a cobbler lying about to handcraft you a shoe anymore. That's not really a thing. So I kind of backtracked, was just Googling footwear development, and actually found that one of the biggest footwear testing firms in the country is in Santa Barbara. So I figured, hey, if they test shoes, they've got to be getting the shoes they're testing from somewhere. So they probably know who's making all the new shoes. So I drove down to Santa Barbara, met with their CEO, and asked him, pitched him the concepts that I'm trying to make this. Do you know anyone who's regularly giving you shoes that you think would be capable of doing this kind of thing? And he gave me 3 or 4 names, called people, interviewed them. As far as interviewing people, I, again, kind of networking, would use a lot of mentors through the hothouse and the hatchery in particular. It's pretty easy to get intro to different experts, not necessarily industry experts. I'll say something we struggled with being footwear specific is it's not like Cal Poly as this massive network of shoe alumni. It's a pretty random thing, but they have a lot of very successful business alums who are more than happy to give students a half hour of their time. So there's probably 10 or 15 different people who are alumnus of Poly that donated time to chat with me. I asked them, hey, what are the main things I need to be checking for in these interviews? What are the big red flags? What's an appropriate price to pay, et cetera. And then I brought all that information into the interviews. Another tip here is when you're interviewing for a position, never just interview one person, interview 2 to 3, because a lot comes out by nature of doing that on its own. If you pitch one person, they say it's going to cost $20,000 and another person says it's going to cost $3,000. You're kind of sitting there like, okay, what the heck does that, like, what is this supposed to cost? So when you talk to multiple people, a lot of it kind of comes out of the woodwork naturally for you. And then, yeah, just kind of went through that process, always just networking to find the leads, working with the closest relevant expert I could find to develop what those interview questions should look like. And then just always kind of cross-checking bids to make sure, you know, just so you can call bullshit. If someone tells you, again, if it's going to be 20K and someone else says 3, you're like, all right, something is not adding up here. And then just trust your gut at the end of the day too is a big factor for sure. I've hired people that have more experience over people that I felt more comfortable with, and they fucked me over every time versus people that I loved the second I met them. They weren't quite as experienced, but we just really jived. Those are the relationships that have lasted till today. Like, if you just get a weird gut feeling, I'm a big believer, it's your company, your intuition is going to be so in tune with that. If someone feels off, doesn't matter if they're the cheapest bid, sometimes there's a reason someone is so cheap. So don't ignore that.
All right. So Matthew, you're up next. Unmute, take it away.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when do you think you should keep everything in-house and stop outsourcing the work?
When you can afford it.
How long do you think you have until you can afford it?
Oh God. I mean, it's an evolving question too, because as you grow, you need more people. So like my current positions, I can probably bring in-house hopefully within the next year, but at that point we'll be so much bigger that I'll need more positions. So it's a constantly sliding scale. I would never think of a startup as there's never going to be this magical point where suddenly you can bring everyone in-house, right? Unless you get a VC that comes in and throws you $50 million out of nowhere, which maybe that happens, great. But it's kind of a sliding scale of you want to fill the gaps that are the most blatant right away. I think a big piece of advice I'd give on hiring and how to kind of prioritize who to bring in internally is you have to be really real with yourself on what your strengths and your weaknesses are. I think a lot of CEOs, you know, we're all super confident people, right? You have a bit of a tendency to think I can do everything and it's all going to be fantastic, but you have to have a weakness somewhere. Or if you don't have a weakness, you just have something you don't like as much. One of the best things about being an entrepreneur is you get to build your own position, and you do so by incrementally letting go of the things you don't want. Because day one, you do it all, and then you can piecemeal it off as you hire more people. So for instance, for me, I'm more of a marketing mind. I'm not operationally strong. And so my next full-time big ticket hire is going to be my COO. She's been contracted with us up until this point, but we're finally at the point where we can afford another full-time person. And so I'm going to be allocating that to her to fill one of my weaknesses / just something I don't really like doing. So I guess that's kind of the answer, is just don't think of it as, oh, I can just magically bring everything in-house. Prioritize the needs, and as the budget arises, fill your own gaps that make the company stronger. I think that's the best way to approach it.
I got it. Thank you.
Camille, go for it.
Hi, Haley. I'm super, super happy you made this product because I have experience going to prom and wearing, well, my boyfriend was really tall at the time. He was 6'5", so obviously I'm 5'2", and I was like, okay, I need to wear like 6-inch heels to like, you know, dance with him and stuff. And my foot had such like a horrible blister after the end of the dance. And to the point where I literally couldn't even walk to his car. So of course that was nothing compared to your experience with your foot injury. That like, I'm just so happy that like you came up with this idea and you really stuck with it. But one of my question was like, I haven't had like a traumatic experience that was like yours, but I really want to know what specific idea I could focus on. For example, like if I have like 3 ideas or whatever, but there's not one that's like specifically standing out enough to me that like I want to act on or like focus more of my time and thought to. What would you suggest?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I mean, this is going to sound silly, but it's kind of one of those word exercises where does your mind go first? If I said, you're starting a company tomorrow, which one is it? What's the one that comes to your mind? If there's a clear winner, go with it. If all three are a tie, you're not ready to start it yet. You need to be so obsessed with whatever this, because again, I'm giving you guys the highlight reel. I think I just did a TED talk on this. I think the main thing about being an entrepreneur is you need to be resilient. Like you need to believe in what you're making so much that when the sky is falling and you think everyone is going to die, you have so much belief in it that you can't stop. And so, not that all three of your ideas aren't fantastic, I'm sure they are, but if they're all holding equal weight in your mind, they're not strong enough yet, in my opinion, for you to invest the kind of time and energy and like sleepless nights and horrifying traumatic stress in it. So wait until one of them really sticks out to you. Like if you're up at 3 a.m. still working on this thing and it gives you energy as well, like working on it doesn't bore you, it doesn't make you tired, like you want to be up till 3 a.m. doing this thing, that's the signal, that's the idea you need to chase. Do not chase an idea if you don't obsess about it that much, because it's a lot of work for something you are not completely in love with. I'm sure one of them is going to take the lead though, but just wait it out. Wait till you're ready for it.
Thank you.
All right, Jordy, take it away. And then Sophie, I'm going to combine your question with his as like kind of like a longer question. All right. So Jordy asked, and then I'll say what Sophie's is. So go for it.
All right. So my question was basically like, how did you build your team in the early stages, and how did you manage the roles and responsibilities of everybody when there weren't really specified roles yet? And also, when you were going through those programs like the Hatchery or the Hot House, does Cal Poly like gain any right or anything to your company through those processes, or is it still your company fully?
That's a great question. I might have you circle back to the first part because I want to touch on the last bit first. By the time I'm done, I might forget what it was. But Cal Poly, one of the strongest things about Cal Poly's entrepreneurship program is no, they do not take an automatic ownership stake in your company. Most schools do. If you come up with an idea on the Stanford campus, they own, I think, 20% of it, like right then, if you just start a business while you're in school. Same at Cal, same at most of the big schools. Poly does not have that policy. So you own your business 100% outright. However, what I will say to that effect, that changes if they feel and can prove that you've used an excessive amount of school paid resources to build your business. Now, most of the services provided by the CPE don't fit under that umbrella because they're created specifically for this. Like use the sandbox all you want, go hang out in the hatchery. That's all fine. The big line that I've seen people almost cross, we almost got baited into this. If the Cal Poly attorneys offer to help you with your patent, don't do it. Okay. If you have a patent, just don't. If a professor is using a ton of office hours or on-campus time to help you, don't do that. Take it off campus. Like there needs to be a very clear, like the CPE is a separate thing. If it's a CIE, CPE endorsed thing, you're good. But if it's something that's utilizing services otherwise paid for by tax dollars, and that's kind of the differentiation, is CIE is donation based specifically because of this. But since we're a state school, if you're using something paid for by the taxpayer, Cal Poly can make a legal argument for up to 1/3 of your company. So don't use their lawyers. I talked to a lawyer from Poly one time, and luckily that was only because she said, I appreciate what's going on and I'm going to talk to you off the books so that this doesn't happen. But don't make sure that's all clear before you sit down with them. I know paying an attorney to do patents is a real pain in the ass. Poly will tell you they're doing it for free. It's not for free. If it doesn't say CIE, really put a lot of thought into it because it can become a whole thing later on. Cool.
Well, thank you.
And then your other question was on hiring.
It was basically hiring when you were in the really early stages, in the hatchery or whatever point you were at, and you had a small team and you were trying to figure out the roles and responsibility and holding people accountable for different things. How did you manage all that and like decide who was going to do what?
Yeah. So again, when it comes to hiring, especially early on, for me, I always viewed hiring priorities as a function of my weaknesses. So for instance, I knew right off the bat, this shoe needed some heavy duty engineering. So the first two people I hired were an industrial tech and a mechanical engineer student, because business entrepreneurship sorority girl over here, there was no freaking way I was engineering this thing on my own. Like, it was just not going to work. So it becomes pretty clear what you need those first hires to be. They should be whatever is essential to the business starting to take shape that you don't think you can do yourself or you're not strong in. So if it's an app and you're not a coder, find someone that can code. If it's a brand and you don't have a graphic design background, it's a graphic designer. Like, those things are pretty obvious. It's that core competency in the business that you either don't know, in my case, or you just don't feel strong enough in. Those are the first people you should hire on.
And
For
so
that reason, as far as, sorry, go ahead.
You were hiring people based, like you were paying people at that time. It was more of like, I'll pay you to do this X amount or like X dollars per hour rather than like stake or something like that. Or was it all?
I didn't pay anyone for the first 2 years of the business.
Okay, so it was just like
I gave them stock options.
Okay.
So here's another thing early on. People working in your business, particularly people that you're bringing on as potential co-founders, like they kind of were in my case, they should believe in the idea so much that having early stage stock is a lot more important to them than making 15 bucks an hour today.
Gotcha.
Right? If you're playing your cards right, you should not be paying your really early people. If they're college students, the one exception, if they're not college students, like if it's, you know, like my engineer from Nike, he got paid because he was from Nike and he deserved to get paid. But if you're working with other students, you should not be paying anyone. If they need to get paid, they don't believe in it enough. No one really needs the money that bad. Like, you're in college, it's fine.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the philosophy there. I'm trying to remember what the next bit was. As far as delegating responsibilities, for me, it was never too big of a concern because, again, I was hiring my weaknesses. So I was hiring an engineer. I don't have enough engineering understanding to micromanage that person. So the management was me going, hey, I need a shoe prototype made by this day. Have fun and hire people that you trust to get it done. Going back to early stage people, again, they should care more about stock. They should really believe in the idea. And they also need to be self-starters and go-getters. In the early days of a startup, there is probably 2 to 3 people to do the work of 15. You don't have the time as the founder to micromanage every single thing that they're doing. And that ties back into them believing in it, right? Like, if they're the right person and they believe in it enough, they should care enough to go get the shit done that they need to get done without you standing over their shoulder micromanaging them. So if you find that you have a management issue and you have to like give someone tasks, they're not smart enough to figure out what the next step is, they're probably not the right person, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna come back down and then I'll get back to the earlier question. Sorry if I'm skipping real quick, just a couple follow-ups to that question. First of all, how much stock do you give those people?
Depends on who they are. So my co-founder, initially, our split was 60-40, but she ended up, everything was on a vesting schedule. I don't know if you guys have learned about vesting schedules yet. You never give people stock, like outright, including yourself. Like, I had to vest as well. You give someone a stock entitlement. So she was entitled to 40% stock with a 1-year cliff, meaning if she didn't stick around for at least a year, she lost all of it. If she stuck around for a year, she got 25% of it. And then the other 75% vested out monthly over the next 3 years. So unfortunately, she had a personal tragedy in her life 1.5 years in and had to leave. So I think she's ended up with 7 or 8%, and the rest of it went back to me, which is great because the whole point behind those protections is you don't want someone coming into the company taking 40% and then dipping 2 months later. And then 8 years from now, you sell for $1 billion. And this person that worked with you for 60 days makes like 40 million bucks. So always structure it that way. That's kind of how co-founders work out when it's early on. After you've set out co-founder stock though, those are the biggest allocations you're ever going to do. The only people that should ever get that kind of stock are the people that were essential to the initial founding of the idea. After that, you have early stage employees. Honestly, like the highest stock percentage they're looking at is 1%. maybe. So like my earliest guy, I think is at 1%. All the employees I paid thereafter are at like 0.1%. But if you think about it, if we sell for $1 billion, they just made like 40 grand for one summer's worth of work. So it's a pretty good trade-off for them.
A couple more follow-ups. Why do you vest for yourself? And then I can remind you if you forget. Any tricks for detecting a self-starter while interviewing?
Yeah, I do have a couple actually. So you vest for yourself. That's actually mostly an investor issue. If you're going to go raise money, as stupid as this is, because you'd think investors would know the founder is invested. An investor's worst nightmare is they come give you a bunch of money and then a month later you get burnt out and you quit owning 80% of the company. And they're just like, what do we do? Like they have no extra stock to give to a new CEO to bring in. And they're just like, cool, my investment just went down the drain because this one person went crazy. So you basically vest your own stock as a protection to the investors. They get, if you don't vest your own stock and you plan to take investment, they will make you go back, unissue it to yourself and vest it. Just because it's kind of their like how it's your assurance that your co-founder sticks around. It's their assurance, because a big thing for investors is they're investing in the founder just as much as they are in the company. So it's them going, hey, I'm giving her this money, and if she wants to, own as much of her company as she thinks she does, she'll stick around for at least the next 3 years. I just had to unvest like 20% of my stock because my new VC freaked out that I owned almost all of it. So it's pretty common. It's mostly just an assurance to them. And then self-starters. Number one, most self-starters go get their own job. And I mean that as I've very rarely had to post job listings. People just send me resumes and they're like, I think what you do is cool. I would like a job. I know you're not hiring, but when you are, please let me know. Like there's your first hint. They don't even need to see a job listing. They just know they want to work for you. That's the biggest tip off. I think the other, you can tell within the first couple weeks, like ask people, what's your vision for yourself in this role? And if they're already coming up with new strategies and they already have in their mind the first 10 things they want to do when they start working with you, great. If you've got someone coming in going, oh, you need a graphic designer, give me what to design and I'll design it. It's like, no, that's not what you want. You want someone going in and being like, I think your logo needs X, Y, Z. This color palette would be so much more cool. Like look for the person that's coming into the interview with ideas, ready to go. They're already thinking about it. They're already stoked on it. Not the person that's just sitting there waiting for you to tell them what to do because you don't have time. They're smart. They can figure it out.
All right. I'm going to come back to Sophie's. Sophie, why don't you unmute? I've rocked the questions for a bit. Go for it.
Okay. Hey, Haley. Nice to see you again. Through all of my time in entrepreneurship, the hardest thing seems to be managing people. So it seems like you kind of just have a no BS rule, but like, how do you manage people and a team effectively, especially as you kind of are a young CEO and you grow your company?
It's definitely not something I'm perfect at. It always evolves. I think something I'm kind of going through right now as we're starting to grow is that your management style also changes as the company gets bigger. Managing the team when it was me and 2 other people looked a lot different than it does now when I have like 20 people in the rotation at any given time. So the way that you manage definitely evolves, but to your point, I think no BS. That's a great place to start. Make sure your expectations are as clear as possible and everyone knows what matters to you. Really try to facilitate kind of a creative environment. Like when people give you ideas, be supportive of that. Always listen, build people up on that front. And also make sure everyone knows what your no-nos are. My big one is no one better lie to me. If I catch wind that someone's lying, they get disciplined in front of everyone else because you can't build a company when people aren't being real with you. So kind of the whole no bullshit thing. Again, it just evolves. This is such a more complicated topic. Earlier on, it's easy to be really good friends with everyone you're working with. Something I'm learning now is as you get bigger, try to separate that. It's really fun. Like the first 3 of you can be best friends, but when it's 20, like, especially when it's contractors, like keep them a little more at arm's length. I guess. I don't know. There's so much to talk about. Just set clear expectations. Make sure everyone knows, what your wins and your not wins are. Like for me, it's no bullshit, no lies, and don't come to me to babysit you. And all that kind of feeds into company culture, right? Like again, you think about what I just said. As I said, I look to hire self-starters. So I'm also only bringing in people that I think match up with that mindset. So when you kind of know what you want the culture to be, use that as part of your hiring thesis of who you're bringing in to the business. And then the management style kind of flows itself. Of I've tried to build a business of people that just get shit done. And so then I don't have to micromanage them because I'm really passionate about not micromanaging people. So I don't know. It kind of all evolves. There's like 15 different subtopics on that, but hopefully that kind of answered the question.
Yeah, gotcha. Kind of helps make it a little more clear.
All right, really quickly before we wrap it up, there are a few more questions. I'm gonna kind of put them into two. An earlier question, David asked, "What techniques do you use to manage stress?" If you can maybe rapid fire that one.
I don't manage stress very well, to be honest with you. That's like my personal development topic of 2020 is to try to not psych myself out every 45 minutes. For me, a big one, I'd say the one I've been able to stay committed to mostly, there's obviously a few exceptions as there are in every founder's life, but something I've been really committed to ever since I was in the hothouse is work-life balance. I feel like I had kind of my one complaint about the accelerator. We were with 8 teams. The other 7 teams actually made fun of my team because I had a policy of everyone get home at 5 and like go have a life, like go have drinks. Like I think we've really glamorized in entrepreneurship world this concept of work till 4 and get up at 6 in the morning and work again. We're all like what, 20 to 23. The worst, and keep in mind, no business is a sprint, it's a marathon. I thought I would have sold my business for $5 billion 2 years in. It's now 4 years in, and that's not happening anytime soon. It's probably going to be at least another 5 years. If I had worked like that in the first summer, I don't know if I would have kept it together and kept it sane enough to still be where I am today and still have enough mental resiliency to deal with challenges as they arise. So as weird as it sounds, because I know entrepreneurs are trained not to think this way, try to work as much of a work-life balance in as you can. See your friends, make time for the gym, go to the beach on Saturdays, like do those things. This is a marathon, and if you drive yourself nuts, like nobody wins if the company fails. You'd rather get where you're going a little bit slower and actually enjoy it than get there like 6 months faster and want to kill yourself. And as point of reference, those other 7 companies from my cohort are now out of business. So not saying apples to apples, but maybe if they pace themselves, just say.
Who knows, right? All right, and one last question. It seems like there's a lot of like legal stuff early on. So what resources would you recommend to figure all of that out?
Oh, definitely talk to the Hatchery. The Hatchery has a pretty extensive database of different Cal Poly alum that are lawyers across a lot of different fields. They are happy to give you half hour to an hour of their time for free to consult on stuff. They'll also give you discounted rates if you need bigger projects. So hopefully a lot of it can just be done with, their opinion for an hour. But for instance, like we needed patents. Tom Liebens, who's a local alumni, donated my provisional patent for free. And then obviously I had to pay him for the full utility patent, but at least got the provisional for free. So just go talk to the Hatchery, let them know what you're dealing with. And that's actually just a great tip in general. Anything you need, there's a Cal Poly alum that does it. And your biggest advantage as a student, I don't know why, but like alum just love to help the students. They live for it. Like it feeds their ego. Tell them how great they are and how thankful you are. And they just feel like this big hot shot helping the helpless student. Like play that card as much as you can. We got so much free advice and labor done for us in those first 2 years. And still to this day, like don't be afraid to ask people to help you because people just love helping kids. Play the kid card. Just do it. Don't be ashamed. It works.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for coming out. Wow, it's like amazing. You see on
Oh,
the
of course.
card? I'm using the card. That was me failing at using the card. All right. So as a wrap up, hey, thank you so much. That was awesome. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else, whoever's on that entrepreneurial journey, was able to take out a lot. Quickly, just to wrap up a couple announcements. Next meeting, we're doing customer dev with Kurt Friedman. It's going to be amazing. He is a pro. Definitely come out 6 to 7 on Tuesday. And then
Kurt's the best. I can vouch. He's great. He knows what he's talking about.
it's all good. And yeah, don't forget to stay connected. These are all of our social media handles, as well as our Slack workspace, which is very active now, and our website. So definitely stay connected with us and through any of those means. And we will be staying afterwards to talk to you if you want. There were some questions about the hatchery. There were questions about just what Cal Poly entrepreneurship scene is all about. So if anyone has any questions about those type of stuff, please feel free to stick around. Our officers do know a lot about those programs. And if you just want to chat about your startup idea or anything else, please feel free. We will be kicking it back. So with that, Haley, thank you so much for coming out. That was awesome. And
Thanks for having me.
of course. And everyone, have an amazing week. Have an amazing rest of the day. And yeah, hope to see you all next week.